I'm speaking to Paula Panzarella from a group called Fight the Hike. We're going to talk about energy. Paula, the legislature is going to vote either this week or next on a new plan coming up from the governor and the chief energy guy, Esty. What do you think of this stuff?
I'm not I'm not too happy with a lot of the plans that have been proposed. The governor's plan to push gas and for people to convert their furnaces from oil to gas. This is at minimum a couple $2 billion that the state will be putting in, and instead of helping promote solar and renewables, it's more of a reliance on fossil fuels, and though gas produces less carbon compounds than oil, it's still not going to be so great for the environment. And also the ratepayers are going to end up having to pay for it big time as well. There's no guarantee, even though gas now is cheaper than oil heat, no guarantee it'll be that way in the future. There was a very interesting article in the New Haven Register this past week that the CEO of United Illuminating, which owns Southern Connecticut Gas, and
Wait a second. The electric company owns the gas company?
Yeah. It's called UIL, and it is the large company that not only owns United Illuminating, but also Southern Connecticut Gas and a couple other gas companies, Connecticut Natural Gas and one in Massachusetts. And they're seeking rate increases because even though there's the conversion to gas and more people are signing up for gas and getting rid of their oil furnaces, because furnaces are so much more efficient, the amount of gas being used is decreasing and the rate of return is lessening.
So because we're more efficient, they want to punish us by raising the rate.
An exact quote from the CEO, Mr. Tergerson: "Every customer is using less, and that is hurting our rate of return."
And what's the problem with his rate of return? Who does he want to give raises to all his employees?
This is very interesting because he said this at a shareholders meeting. There was retired employees there who said, "Does this mean we could get a cost of living raise in our pensions?" And he said no. And then a shareholder asked if the shareholder dividend will go up, and he said no, it'll be the same as it's been for 15 years. Mr. Tergerson's salary went up from $2.22 million in 2010 to $2.55 million in 2012. So somewhere rates of return are going.
Somebody's doing
someplace.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you about the gas. Now, didn't Fight the Hike work on some other kind of energy program a couple of years ago?
Oh, Fight the Hike started because United Illuminating had intentions of raising its rates 50%. And there were a number of people outraged that such a thing could happen and planned a rally right before the Department of Public Utility Control was going to vote on it. And at that time it was no organization, but word of mouth and people talking as much as they can. There were 60 people at that rally, and the DPUC did approve the rate increase, and we decided to meet again and see what we could do as a group. And that was the beginning of Fight the Hike then.
And you worked on a whole big energy plan that included real renewables?
We did. When we first started, we met with a number of legislators and we gathered together a wish list of what we think would be practical and good for the consumers, residents of Connecticut, small business people, to deal with the exorbitant increase in our electric bills. And it took a while, but in 2011, a energy program passed the legislature, and it looked like there was a sincere interest in the part of the representatives and senators and businesses to go ahead and get the renewable energy industry going in Connecticut, both in promoting renewable energy and having a number of jobs in the industry.
But that's not the plan that's being considered now.
No, actually, with so much going now for gas, and if even a percentage of that $2 billion were to be going to invest in solar, to promote small businesses, to start creating solar panels and installation and such, that would not only create dozens and hundreds of more jobs for people, but it would have a real impact on people using renewables. The other thing that, there's also one other plan that's proposed legislation that's going through, and that's with Hydro-Quebec and the...
Yeah, I was just about to ask you about that.
That is Senate Bill 1138. And in a way, it's similar to what will happen with renewables, because if the state of Connecticut does approve of Hydro-Quebec as it is, then the money will not be invested in the renewables that are being created locally and the businesses that are trying to develop locally. The state will say
it's not a fossil fuel in Canada.
it's not a fossil fuel,
But it's
no.
not going to help Connecticut itself.
Well, it would bring in renewable hydropower,
Mm-hmm.
but it wouldn't be developing a local industry.
Mm-hmm.
And because the state will say, oh, well, we'll get our 20% of renewables this way, we don't have to deal with any promotion of local. And we think that would be horrible for the companies that have started up. Now, there is an amendment to that Senate Bill 1138, and it's called LCO 6421, and I've been told that from other people who have been working very close to the legislature, that this amendment does away with a lot of the very bad sections of Senate Bill 1138, and it would encourage the local productions of renewables.
And has that amendment passed, or do you
As
know?
far as I know, it has not yet been voted on.
Mm-hmm. Now, one last thing. Something called the standard option. That's not exactly part of the bill. It's part of the budget, I understand. What's that all about?
Right. The standard option. Right now, when you have when you get your electric bill, you can choose to have another company generate the electricity, and maybe you've gotten the telephone calls from people, or they've knocked at your door saying, "Will you switch?" The standard option. If you don't switch, you get the standard option, which is a regulated option. It's still one from United Illuminating or CLNP, but there is oversight as to what it can be. It's kind of like the benchmark of how you can gauge how effective the other companies would be in lowering your rate. And the governor is proposing to auction off the standard option, so a private energy company can be the sole supplier for you, though you could still switch off to another, but it would be a private company that would be then providing your energy. And
What's the problem with that?
well, there's no oversight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not regulated. They could charge what they want. They could institute fees. They could say, well, if you switch to another company, you're going to have to pay such and such a fee. They could go double the price. They could do anything. They're not regulated.
Mm.
So the problem with that is many people have the standard offer and are happy with it, and they know what they're getting and are feeling fairly secure with it. And having the energy auction, even though the state is saying, well, that's $80 million they'd get in, if a company is going to pay $80 million for the right to run the electric generation, you can be sure they're planning that it's worth a lot more than that in their pockets.
Last question. Next Wednesday, the 22nd, Capitalism versus the Climate is called for a demonstration against the whole energy plan of the governor. What do you feel about this idea of demonstrating?
I've seen their emails. I'm very glad you mentioned that. I've seen emails and their website, and I think that it's a wonderful idea to demonstrate, be right at the legislature, and for the senators and reps to see that people are looking for something better than what is being offered right now. You know, we don't have to go along with the Hydro-Quebec plan. In fact, the governor of New Hampshire has been urging Governor Malloy to not go ahead with it. We don't have to see that gas is the sole way to deal with the energy crisis. It's still not going to be any solution for climate change to be seeing gas as the way forward. So I'm all for people being there on Wednesday.
All right. Thank you very much for talking.
Thank you so much.
Been talking to Paula Panzarella with Fight the Hike.